Most men will die as a rough draft of who they could have been, not because the world stopped them, because they stopped themselves. Every single morning, in the 30 seconds between waking up and deciding who wins today, I want to tell you about a man who died alone, writing in the dark, knowing he had maybe hours left. No family around him, no students, no ceremony, just a brush, some ink, and one final thing he needed the world to know before he left it. That man was Miyamoto Musashi, and what he wrote that night was not about swords. It was about the only war that actually determines the shape of a man's life. I am going to show you exactly what that war is, and I promise you, by the end of this, you will never be able to unsee it. Musashi spent the first half of his life mastering other men. He was 13 the first time he fought. He fought in rain, in mud, against armed groups, against men twice his size, in conditions where most people would not even show up. He trained from before sunrise until his body gave out, for decades. And then, at 50 years old, something shifted. He wrote it himself. He said the victories of his youth were not yet the real thing. Raw ability, wearing the costume of mastery. Real mastery, he said, came later. It came when he stopped fighting other people and started studying the one opponent who had been there his entire life, himself. Not in a spiritual self-help kind of way, in a brutal, surgical, take-no-prisoners kind of way. He called it the spirit that clouds, the invisible fog that enters a man's mind at the exact moment when clarity matters most. And the terrifying thing about that fog is that it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like weakness. It feels like caution. It sounds like wisdom. It tells you to wait, to plan a little more, to let the moment pass because surely a better one is coming. It is not wisdom. It is the part of you that is afraid of what happens if you actually try. And here is the thing. Nobody wants to say out loud, I have watched men I grew up with lose this fight for years. Smart men, men with real ability, men who could see exactly what they needed to do and talked about it endlessly, over drinks, over the phone, in long messages at midnight, men who had every reason to change and zero shortage of plans for doing it. Same conversations, year after year. The job that was going to change, the business they were going to start, the weight they were going to lose, the relationship they were going to fix. And every time I checked in, the story was the same with a different detail swapped out. My situation is a bit different, you know. That one sentence has buried more potential than poverty ever has, because here is what my situation is different actually means. It means I have decided the rules do not apply to me, but in reverse. Not that I am special enough to succeed, that I am special enough to be exempt from the work. Musashi had no tolerance for this. In the ground book, he laid out 9 principles for the warrior. Number 1 was not speed, not strength, not talent. It was, do not think dishonestly. He put it first because he knew the whole structure collapses if a man cannot be straight with himself about what he is actually doing with his days. There is a scene in Whiplash that breaks something open in you if you are paying attention. Fletcher, the conductor, throws a chair at his student for being out of tempo. And later, when the student confronts him about how brutal the methods are, Fletcher says something that sounds insane until you sit with it. He says the 2 most harmful words in the English language are good job, because good job means stop here. Good job means you found your ceiling and we are all comfortable with it. The student in that film, Andrew, is talented, but talent is irrelevant to Fletcher. What Fletcher is testing is something else entirely. He's testing whether the young man can override his own discomfort, his own pride, his own desire to be told he is already enough, and keep going anyway. Most men in Andrew's position quit. Andrew doesn't quit, and by the end, he becomes something that talent alone could never have built. That is discipline beating talent, not in theory, on screen, and you can see the exact moment where one man's internal war turns. Musashi called this principle the water book. He wrote that the spirit must become like water. Water holds no fixed form. It does not argue with the container. It does not insist on being a different shape than reality requires. It simply fills the space it is given and applies pressure from within. Your mind is not water right now. It is concrete, poured years ago into the shape of your old excuses, your old habits, your old ceiling. And every morning, life asks you to flow into a new shape, and you crack instead. This is where most men tap out. Musashi described a technique in single combat called to hold down a pillow. Before the enemy can raise his attack, before the energy can even form, you are already suppressing it. You do not wait for the threat to arrive. You feel it building and you shut it down at the root. Apply this to the version of yourself that destroys your mornings. He doesn't deserve a negotiation. He doesn't deserve 5 more minutes. The moment you sense him showing up, the pull toward the phone, the drift toward comfort, the whisper that says the important work can start after just one easy thing. That is the moment you hold down the pillow, not with gritted teeth and white-knuckle willpower. Willpower is a resource that drains. You hold it down with something stronger, identity. Musashi trained so long and so deeply that the right action stopped being a decision. It became what he was. He did not choose to train. He trained because a man who had lived the way he lived could not do otherwise. That is the transition that changes everything from "I am trying to be disciplined" to "this is simply what I do." It sounds small. It is the whole game, because a man negotiating with his habits every morning will eventually lose the negotiation. But a man who does not negotiate, who has already decided, that man compounds. Every day, slightly more than the day before, slightly more proof that he is who he says he is. Talent spots the opportunity. Discipline is still there at 11 p.m., making sure it gets done. That gap between the man who sees what needs doing and the man who actually does it regardless of how he feels, that gap is where lives are built or wasted. Most men live in that gap forever. Musashi wrote in the final chapter, The Book of the Void, that real mastery is when there is no longer any separation between the man and the way. No inner voice arguing, no split between what you know you should do and what you actually do. Just clarity. He called this the true void, not emptiness, precision, the place beyond internal conflict where action is clean because the war is over. Most men never get there, not because it is impossible, because they are not willing to pay the price of losing who they are right now. And that is the brutal truth at the center of all of this. To become the man you are capable of being, the current version of you has to die. The one with the comfortable stories, the one who believes his situation is the exception, the one who has been sleepwalking through years of his own potential and calling it patience. That man has to go. And the one who replaces him, the one forged in the discomfort you keep avoiding, he does not need motivation. He does not need the right moment. He does not need conditions to be perfect. He just moves. You already know what you need to do. You have known for a while. The only question left is whether the version of you reading this is the last one who does nothing about it, or the first one who does. Stop drafting the man you could be. Become him, starting now. If you got value from this, like, subscribe, and join my free newsletter for deeper insights. And if you want to continue your journey, watch my full 8-hour Miyamoto Musashi wisdom video next. I'll see you there.